right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you're getting tired of talking to me, but we want to keep continuing to bring you the latest developments. We want to make sure that you understand that we're here for you. We know we will provide you what we know as of now, and understand this is fluid. This will continue to change. I've personally received a lot of emails from agents who I've worked with on closings and other matters, whether or not we've done their taxes. And some folks are saying, I've been told I'm not eligible. I've been told I couldn't apply. Some people are being turned away by their bank. A lot of concern coming for folks who have not been able to apply because they have a personal bank account for your business and not a business bank account. You can still get help. Understand you are going to be a little bit disadvantaged because you now got to get through that part of the system as well. So in order to get the bank's help, we've got some resources available on our website. If you email me, I can give you contact to bankers who are able to work with folks who have not already been at that institution. The SBA did say that they were looking to have the applications be running through the bank you're already with. So that was primarily for ease of processing, because they already knew you, they already had your information, you already had accounts, the anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism documents had already been completed. A lot of banks took it upon themselves to have their own internal policy to say that they would not allow their bank to process loans for non-customers, for the simple fact that they were trying to make sure that they could service their existing client base and not be slowed down due to the onslaught of folks all at the same time. So, you know, that's now starting to loosen up a little bit. There are some more banks that have come online to say that they will help folks who were not existing customers. 2 days ago was the last time I saw an update from the SBA. They're up to 3,800 lenders. At the start of this week, it was only 3,500 lenders. So these things are changing every day. I can't say it enough. I wanted to talk to you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I wanted to talk to you guys today about how to physically fill out the application. We have talked ad nauseum. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about the PPP loan. This is specifically what we're going to talk about here this afternoon. The PPP loan is a program where you can get up to 2.5 times your monthly income, your average monthly commission income, to cover you during this period. Now, what I want to go over is, this is the official SBA application. Every bank is different on how they are accepting this information. So what I mean is, every bank's got their own portal, their own web designers have made their own links. This is the form that the SBA gave. Whatever you end up typing into the computer is essentially to answer these questions. So if you go to my website, this is available. And if you also just Google PPP application form, you will find this. Be mindful that this form has already been through revisions. So the one that I've got up here in this presentation is the most recent, but they have, when it first started, there were only 3 boxes you could check, and now you can see that there's a bunch. The boxes have caused a lot of trouble for folks. The boxes have been a source of information confusion. So people are saying, I don't know what I should be, I don't know what I should pick. So that's where we wanted to start. Hi, Marina.
Hi, sorry, I was just getting off the phone with somebody and kind of walking them through something similar.
There you go. Tell them to join us.
Yes, exactly.
I was just saying that we fielded a lot of questions about this application form, and we've also received a lot of emails from folks saying, I spoke with my bank and they said I'm not eligible. So we wanted to walk through this form so that, you know, even if you print this and handwrite on it, that way you're prepared when you go to the website, you know exactly what you're going to be filling out and why. Okay, so the first box is causing a lot of consternation. For realtors specifically. You meet about half of the boxes, but you're really only supposed to check 1 according to the rules. So you could be sole proprietor if you are Joanne Kuntz Realtor with no PLLC and no PA. You could be an LLC if you had checked PLLC, if you were a PLLC. Many of you, if you are a PLLC, are also taxed as an S corporation. So you see that as a choice. All of you are independent contractors if you are an agent at another brokerage and you're not the owner of the brokerage. So there's potentially, and then next is eligible self-employed individial. So there's 5 boxes. Who are you and who should you be? So that's what we want to talk about today. Marina, do you want to do a little bit about the difference between some of these?
Yeah, well, yes, I think that the way that we are trying to interpret it is that if you can most certainly be self-employed, but if you are filing your tax return as an S Corp, you should mark S Corp. Okay, and then that will put you into that business category. If you are an LLC, but you are not, you have not elected to be an S Corp, you can, now here's the thing, you can either mark LLC or you can mark eligible self-employed individual. I feel like maybe eligible self-employed individual may be better, Joanne. I don't know how you feel about that, because LLC is one of those completely widely used terms. It's a legal term, but it doesn't really mean anything for tax, and it really certainly doesn't mean anything for how it is that you run your business. So I would be leaning towards saying that if you do have an S Corp election, you put yourself as an S Corp. If you don't, then mark yourself as eligible self-employed individual. That's how I would lean towards. Joanne, do you agree with me?
Completely agree with that, completely.
Yeah. If you are just self-employed, where you're an independent contractor, so you're a realtor with a 1099, you're not an LLC, you don't have an S Corp, you are an independent contractor. So you, the realtor with the 1099 that you get from brokerage, is an independent contractor. If you are the realtor who's got the PLLC, who is an S Corp, for tax purposes, mark yourself as an S Corp.
Now, Marina, what's your take on, I'm Joanne Kuntz, realtor. I don't have LLC. I don't do S Corp. I'm on Schedule C, but I have an administrative assistant who I pay on payroll.
You are eligible self-employed.
Perfect. Perfect.
You're eligible self-employed.
Are there any variations of, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it will give you the opportunity to tackle the number that includes your commission that you get as a realtor, as well as your administrative assistant that's on payroll.
Correct. Okay.
And now, yes, Schedule C, there's some questions coming in. Schedule C is the sole proprietorship. So any time you're sole proprietor or independent contractor, you have to use Schedule C. I think the difference between sole proprietor and independent contractor for these purposes is independent contractor means you get a 1099 from whoever you do work for. So you're a website designer, you get a 1099, you're an independent contractor. You're self-employed if you have your own business and you work for yourself, but nobody issues you a 1099. So if you're the realtor and you work for a brokerage, you get a 1099. And you're still an independent contractor. But if you have different 1099s coming from different sources, you are self-employed. For tax purposes, you are on Schedule C, but for purposes of clicking this box, I think if you get different sources of income, for some you have a 1099, for others you don't, you are self-employed. That's how I would tackle this box. Joanne, do you agree there?
Completely, completely. I'm just answering some questions here.
Yes, some questions. If you're an S Corp but also receive a 1099, I would still mark the S Corp box.
Yeah, there's no reason to not mark the S Corp. If you are anything else and S Corp, you're going to choose S Corp. Right? Gotcha.
That's correct.
Now, if you're a team, what do we do if we're a team? No W-2s, no wages, no employees. What do I do though if it's you and I on Team Kuntz? All the commission income maybe goes through me because I am, our brokerage incentivizes us to take pay that way. So if I submit all the contracts and $300,000 of 1099 gross commission income is reported to me, but I am also a member of Team Kuntz, how am I going to handle that?
Most of the teams that we have are all S Corps. So again, I would mark the box as S Corp. I don't believe I've ever come across any teams that were not an S Corp. But in case you have a team, if we didn't do the work and you happen to be a team and you're not an S Corp, I would still check the self-employed box there.
Correct. Now, keep that in mind. We'll also be coming back to the distinction between teams and individual agents when we get down to one of the next boxes, which is the calculation of the payroll box, which we're coming to. So I think that's all we need to do up here.
Yep.
The business legal name, you're only going to fill out if you are an LLC. So if I'm Joanne M. Kuntz, PA or PLLC, that's what I'm going to put there. The business address can be your home address if you work out of the house. That's not a problem. You would only have a DBA if you had the team that you were applying under, and you might possibly have a DBA. You're not permitted to have a DBA for your PLLC for FREC purposes. The business TIN is the EIN number for the business. If you have not incorporated, you are not an LLC, a PLLC, anything, you're going to put your social security number there. The phone number here, I would put your cell phone number because some of these lenders have been calling. And if you put a business line that doesn't get answered on the weekends, my husband actually received a call on his application on last Sunday afternoon. So do put a cell phone number and email address there. I'm just trying to scope through if you are an S Corp, but you're also receiving, you already did that. Okay, average monthly payroll. Let's talk about how you're going to come up with that number, because keep in mind, guys, these forms were written with the concept that there would be a payroll, but then they added in self-employed and independent contractors who may not be paying by a payroll. So keep in mind that these names, it's kind of like the name borrower is used for buyer on a HUD, even if they're paying cash. So these are just the vernacular that the government is using. Don't be alarmed if you aren't actually running a payroll. This is where we're still going to calculate the amount of money that you're eligible to take the loan for. Marina, can you tell us a little bit about that?
So as the realtor with a 1099 commission income, this will be the amount of your 1099 commission income. Your gross commission income as a realtor on a 1099 is your payroll. Okay, so for purposes of figuring this out, you're going to take average monthly payroll. Now I'll get into the average piece in a minute, but your 1099 is going to drive your payroll. If you are, if you get 1099 and then you also pay an assistant who is on W-2, the assistant's wages are in here as well. If you have an assistant who you pay 1099 to, their wages and their 1099 income is not in here, because your assistant with the 1099 that you give them should be filing this application as their own independent contractor. So this will be your commission and anybody else that you have on payroll. So if you're a team, this is the total commission. And again, we'll get into the average in a minute. This will be the commission. And if you have an administrative assistant on payroll, this is where the payroll for that assistant is going to go. If you have no assistant, you're just a realtor, you get a 1099 commission, that is your payroll for this purpose. Okay, let me cover a little bit on what the average means. So there's a back and forth on what is the average. And I see questions popping up as I speak.
I'm kind of trying to keep answering the questions, and anything you don't hit, I'll chime in.
Perfect. So we start with 2019 because a lot of them would ask for 2019 1099. That's the easiest for them to track because that form already exists and is available. If you started working in the middle of 2019 and your 1099 would only reflect, let's say, 6 months of your commissions, then average that 1099 over 6 months. If you didn't do any work in 19 and you only became a realtor in January 1st and you've had commissions from January 1st to March 30th, I would take those 3 months of commissions and average them by month. The key here is that you have to be in business by February 15th. So if you're a realtor who's still writing exams, who's maybe part of the brokerage, not quite yet, you are not eligible for this. This has got to be a functional realtor who may have had ups and downs. That's all right. You have to have been in business by February 15th. So you also have an option to do running average for the last 12 months. So let's say you've been in business from March to March, you can use the 12 months March. It's just easier for the banks to first start with 2019 because there's already a 1099. You can attach a support and it's easier. But there's also a place where you can show how you took the last 3 months or the rolling 12 months average and how you came up with that number. So that's how you would come up with your average monthly, okay? Times 2.5 plus idle. So this is idle loan that we have covered in several different places. And I believe this is if you have already received it, because what they're trying to do is roll that idle into the PPP application. If you haven't received your idle, I wouldn't put anything in there. If you haven't received your advances, you haven't received anything, you applied, but you haven't received. If you're submitting this application today, until you receive the money from idle, I would not include it in here. So essentially you're applying for your average monthly commission plus any payroll that you've got to your administrative assistants times 2.5 plus any money you would have already received under idle. Number of employees, that's also a great box because I think, again, if we're using commission for payroll, then we should use you as the employee. So I would mark here 1. If you just applying for yourself with your commission statement. If it's you, an administrative assistant, then it's 2. If you are a team and you're only showing the gross revenue for the total, for a total team, but it's 2 of you in the team, and you're showing the total commission income here, then the number of employees is 2, because again, it's 2 of you generating that commission income. So the key here is, remember, you're limited to 100,000 per employee or per person, if you will. So this is what's going to get them to say that if your average is too high, because if you're limited by, let's say those realtors that make commission over 100,000, you're limited to 100,000. 100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5, that's 20 grand roughly. So if they see that it's going to be in excess of 20, that amount that you're putting in the box, and number of employees is 1, they know they're going to limit you to that 20,000. It's not 20 even, but it's the 100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. So that's why the number of employees. Now, if you have team and it's 2 people and you guys are earning $500,000, you're still only limited to 200,000, so 100 for each. So in this case, your application in that box is going to have, 200,000. Your average monthly payroll is 200,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. So you're going to have your 40 grand or whatever. Number of employees is 2. Okay. So that's how I would address that. Purpose of.
Go ahead. Yep. No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to just tackle that box that says purpose of the loan. I would certainly put payroll for
Before we go there, yep. I want to clarify a couple questions that came up repeatedly. This is not just for your distribution. So some people have said, hey, I'm an S Corp, but I only take a distribution quarterly. So if I made 20,000 this quarter, but I only took 5,000, which number are they going to be looking at?
You want to put your gross. You want to put your gross commission. You want to put your gross revenue.
Doesn't matter what you actually took out of the business or took as a distribution. We're relying strictly on your total compensation. The other question I'm getting is, do you have to have filed your 2019 taxes yet?
No, you do not. People have applied and they don't even ask for a copy of 18 return for that matter. I have not seen anybody, a lot of people ask me and say, hey, can you provide me copies of my returns? None of the banks have asked for it to my knowledge. I don't know if they're changing that, but no, you don't have to file your 19 return. As a commission person, you would have already had your 1099 miscellaneous that you can use as the application. And you already, if you have payroll, you already have your payroll reports for 2019. You do not need a tax return for 19. So where I was is, can you go back and revise the application if you put the wrong number down? Somebody was asking that, she put down like the total commission times 2.5, can you go back and revise? I believe you can revise. The other thing is if you put a huge number, they will come back and ask you for backup. So they'll know that you messed it up and will recalculate based on the average instead of the total. I am not quite sure if, in this case, if it's going to be clear that they'll just go back and recalculate or bounce it back to you and make you revise. But I believe either option may be available. I don't know, Joanne, do you know if it depends on the bank, if you can go back to revise, or if it's just going to be like,
I think it depends on the bank, because we had
Oh.
one where someone had made an error, but the approval had already gone through. So I think you're only going to see them come back to you if there is something clear. Like you said, you applied for more than 20,800 and you have only one person. Okay. All right, I need to get back to sharing the screen with you guys for.
There's also a couple of questions while you're doing that came through a chat. I think when you have Q&A, we can see it in a little bit of a different screen than a chat. So let me take a couple of, because the chat, other people cannot see what those questions are. Somebody was asking, so if I made over 100,000, should I cap my annual revenue at 100,000? That is correct. That also, if you're on payroll and you've got other benefit costs, so let's say your company and you're paying health insurance and you're paying any other benefits, or you've got a retirement plan, you've got 100,000 in salary, but and I think there's probably a different box, but you definitely qualify for additional payroll related costs for pension contribution as the employer, as well as any benefits. For most of the independent contractor realtors, I think you're pretty much capped, because you even if you're contributing to any pension plans, you're not contributing as the employer versus employee. So I would probably just leave the commission income in there. And maybe we'll get to the box, because I believe here in this box we were with payroll only, not the benefits. But I could be wrong, Joanne. Maybe as we go through the application, we'll take a peek, because I want to make sure if somebody has an S Corp and is paying, making contributions to 401k plan or SEP plan as the employer, and benefits, where we put that. So let's get through the application and then we'll make sure we're giving you the right guidance there.
Okay. Do you need to do purpose of the loan? Have you done that? I don't know if you did that.
I haven't yet. So really the key here is that you're applying for payroll. I would put down payroll, mortgage interest, and utilities, because those are all covered purposes of this particular loan. The key is that you cannot use the funds from the PPP for anything other than payroll, mortgage interest or rent for the business, and utilities. So I would mark all of those 3 boxes, and then do not mark anything as other. The reason why they're asking as other is when we get into the forgiveness of this loan, if the funds were used on anything other than those purposes, that portion will not be forgiven. Okay. And then while I'm in it, we may come back to the forgiveness piece later, but just to give you guys a reminder on the forgiveness, if the amount of the loan is going to be forgiven, it needs to be used at least 75% for payroll costs. So really replacing your commission. If it's used even on these approved uses like utilities and rent, it's still got to be less than 25%. Now, this is where it gets a little hairy, and we have absolutely zero guidance on how this forgiveness part is going to work. So let me mention it while I'm here. When you are an employer and you've got a bunch of people on payroll, it'll be easy to prove that for 8 weeks, once you got the loan, that you had 75% of that loan was used for payroll. That's fantastic, because you've got payroll reports. Now, you're an independent contractor. This is really replacing your commission that you're not earning. So how do you prove that this was used for payroll, because you don't have payroll? I think here we're probably going to get more guidance. The advice that we're giving right now is just keep track of your expenses. If you've got a separate bank account for your activities, business activities, definitely track all the business expenses. I think it's going to be a matter of, as long as you didn't take this money and improved your house, went on vacation, or paid off an old credit card, if you use it for your daily living expenses as just an independent contractor, you did pay your rent, you did pay your house mortgage, you paid your utilities. It's not necessarily business, but it's personal, because again, you're an independent contractor. I think that's all going to be fine. And they may loosen the rules on the forgiveness for independent contractors, because again, there's no payroll per se, but we'll bring you guys that when we get through the application process, when we do find something. But I just wanted to make sure that you mark this box payroll. You can mark it as lease, mortgage, interest, and utilities, and do not mark as other. Is that your understanding as well, Joanne? That
Yeah, the only real
box?
thing I would say about utilities is if you don't have an independent office, if you're not the broker and you're just the individual agent, really utilities, you're probably going to be looking at like cell phone. You're going to be able to apply for the payroll no matter what. So I really don't know in the individual realtor circumstance if it's going to matter what uses of the loan you select. There's no change in the calculation. So you could check all of the boxes, and then if ultimately the guidance comes out and it says that paying your utility bills as an independent contractor falls under payroll because your payroll would be used to pay those things if you were working somewhere else, then that may go away. But you're not in any better or worse position by checking all of the boxes.
Yeah.
You will get the same exact loan amount because, as Marina explained, the loan amount is based on your income, not your expenses. So it doesn't matter what your expenses are for purposes of calculating how much you're entitled to in terms of your utilities and things like that. The payroll is the only function that's going to affect the calculation of the income.
And to be honest with you, the way that I potentially see this happening, look, if you're an independent contractor, let's say you're a realtor, it doesn't matter how much commission you made. Let's say you made $500,000, you're capped at 100,000. So we're dealing with the calculation of, again, we're back to 100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5 is 20 grand. Are they really going to ask you for all of this backup for 20 grand? I can see where there may be a threshold on what's the funds used for. I can see that them, really worrying more about the bigger loans because you can get up to $10 million under this loan. So I would imagine them policing bigger guys a little bit more than the single, realtor, business owner, independent contractor. But again, because we do not know that yet, I would most certainly make sure that you don't take that money and paid off your old credit card and paid off your car and went on vacation. I would, just keep track of your regular expenses in that 8-week period from when you got the loan. That's your understanding too, Joanne?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. Now, if you were a realtor by yourself, PLLC, you're in the next box, you're going to be the only owner, obviously, to list. If you're a team, then you're going to list both people. Most teams are 2 agents. It can be more, but that's what you're going to see here on this bottom portion of.
Also, Joanne, can you mention if the teams that we do have, the way that the structure that we always recommend is each realtor is a PLLC themselves, and then the PLLCs are who owns the team. So if you are a team and you're applying here, in the ownership, would you put the owner name as the individual realtor, or would you put their PLLC and the EIN number for the PLLC?
So here's another problem where real life doesn't meet up with the forms. I have one particular client who I've been working with, and he was submitting, it was a team. He and his partner, both PLLCs, were the owners of the team, and Chase kept denying him to submit the application and said he was ineligible on their web-based platform because they had a box that said, is this business owned by another business? So when he said yes, it kicked him out and said, no, you can't do this program. So of course, my client was extremely conservative and nervous about going through and applying, and I said, just disregard it then, because this is just a case where the computer doesn't mirror real life. You're not lying, you're not reflecting the proper, what's going on. It's not like it's a different person. So in that case, rather than applying under Team Kuntz and showing Joanne Kuntz PLLC and Marina Parkin PLLC as the owners, I had him put Joanne Kuntz and Marina Parkin individually, because the tax returns and all the supporting documentation you're going to provide are going to show that, but the computer fizzled out once he said it was owned by another entity. So I think each individual application with the bank, we're going to have to monitor those. If you guys have questions, shoot us an email. It's helpful to us too as we advise other people. We're talking to so many people that, we've heard back, well, Wells Fargo said this, Bank of America did that. We have the benefit of having a little peek into everybody's different experiences. So we'll continue to provide that information as we get it.
And for a team, I got a question now. You're a team and you're getting paid 1099, but your brokerage does split it, yes, you're applying as each individual. This is only for the teams where the reason why you're a team is because you're able to push all the commissions to one member of the team, so you may get a better split or better terms. That's where it matters, that you now all of a sudden you've got this 1099 commission going to just one person, but really it's a team. But if you are already getting split commission, then yes, each of you, if not that don't apply under the team, I would say then each of you would apply as independent contractor, each with your own 1099. Another good question came up. How does your monthly average expenses get calculated within monthly average payroll? The calculation for this loan is just based on payroll or commission or what have you. You're not including your expenses in what it is you're applying for. That is going to be what you're using the funds on, but the basis for calculating the amount you're going to get is going to be based on the payroll or commission income. So I wanted to clear that up. Hopefully that answers that. Question, do you have to pay tax on this income? I don't think so. It's going to be a loan if you get it. And they made it very clear that the portion that's forgiven is also not going to be taxable. Like in the past days when you got cancellation of income and you got those fancy 1099-Cs 3 years later from a bank and you had to include them in income. This is not going to be like that. They already made it clear that you are not going to get taxed on the forgiveness of this debt.
Perfect. One question that I've got is, if you are an individual, again, this form doesn't mimic real life, which is why we're doing this, because it's easy to spit out all the rules and the calculations, but what do you actually do when you see these boxes? What do you want to do, Marina, about the box that says list all owners over 20% or more? If this is independent contractor, just individual person, do you think we can mark that box NA since all of the information is in the top there?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I think what this is trying to get at is if you've got a couple of different owners, they're going to make sure that the same owners did not apply for the same loan as, under two different names. So let's say Joanne and I are partners in the CPA firm. If we both submit application for the total payroll of the CPA firm, they want to make sure that if I submitted the application and Joanne did too, that they're going to merge them together and make sure we don't get double.
Yeah. And also the reason they're asking for that as well is there were some commonality rules that were put forth to make sure that big businesses didn't try to sneak in and apply for this, because there's a maximum limit of 500 employees, which doesn't apply to you guys, but they're trying to identify if we've broken up one big business into a bunch of small ones, but it's common ownership and together, but amongst all the businesses that we own, we have more than 500 employees, then they're going to kick us out of the program. Now, what do we do about independent contractors who have a team but haven't formed an LLC? So if Marina and I are spouses and we put everything through me, but we have not officially filed a team LLC, and we don't file a team S Corp return, unfortunately, you are going to be limited to one $100,000 income, because the team isn't a business. So if all of the commission income is gone through me for the purposes of improving compensation or incentives with the brokerage, but you don't actually have a team LLC, then the second person who's working but has no 1099 income, because it's all in the other spouse's name, for example, is going to get no PPP benefit. Mm-hmm. So that's something to watch out for.
And I want to backtrack a little bit again on the monthly payroll, including the benefits. I believe that it does. I believe there's no other box on this application that's asking separately for benefits on this particular application. I think what I was looking at, because some of my clients this week have been sending me their bank application forms and say, does this look right? Does this look right? Because the bank will have their own form as well. This is the SBA form that's going to be part of the application. So some of the banks, when they ask for this information, you got to put in a different box. The compensation, where you put the total, then excess over 100,000. Then what are the health insurance? What are the pension plan contributions? Here, this is going to be the total. So the average monthly payroll that you're applying for is going to include the actual payroll plus any employer pension contributions plus any employer paid health insurance. Okay, so that's going to be your total. So you would have already worked up to that to include that number in there. And that, again, is a qualified use of the funds. Again, if you're maxed out at 100,000 in payroll, it's 100,000 plus, let's say you've got a 401k contribution of, let's say you max it at 25. So it'll be 100,000 payroll plus 25,000, the 401k contribution plus whatever health insurance, and you'll have that in there. And then you will have the backup for where you came up with these numbers. So you'll still have your payroll report, you'll have your health insurance statement, and then you will have your pension contribution statement.
Okay.
Okay.
Another thing I'm getting a lot, I'm trying to continue to answer all of them here, is if you have a personal checking account and not a business checking account, you are still eligible for the PPP program, but you will experience some frustration getting to a lender who will sign you up and work with you. SBA doesn't care if you don't have a business checking account. The lenders have had that as their own internal policy to say we want to help our clients first. So they have taken the position inside their own bank to say, we're not going to process that if it's not an actual business account. The reason being is they have to do certain bureaucratic checks to see that you haven't funded terrorism or laundered money, et cetera. So that is going to be, you'll experience a slowdown as a result of not, unfortunately, having this set up as a business. We have preached repeatedly the importance of not getting involved in that it's just me mindset when you're in real estate. And unfortunately, some people are going to suffer as a result of this, because if you have the LLC and you have the business bank account and you have been running, you know, things the way you're supposed to, it's very easy to evidence in these times. It's not that you're not going to get the help. It just may take more, you know, drinks or Advil to get through it.
Absolutely. And who knows, it may get some bounce back and ask additional questions and whatnot. A good question. Can I apply directly on SBA website, or do I have to go through the bank? This is a bank only. This is a bank directed loan. So this is an SBA loan, but who's managing this loan is a bank. The loan that you can apply directly on the SBA website is an EIDL loan. It is not a PPP loan. This is a different one. So we're going through the PPP application here. This is the form we've got up, and that's the one that you got to submit through your bank.
Another thing I'm seeing a lot is, which address should I use? I would use your home address if you are an agent at a brokerage, particularly a long brokerage. Just in case they mail you anything, I would use your home address. They're not checking this to see if you're an actual formal business in the independent contractor context. So I would use your home address rather than your brokerage address.
Yep.
Neither is wrong, but you know, I probably would do that.
Yep. That's
all right.
I'm looking in the chat. Are you looking in Q&A? I'm
in Q&A.
And I'm in chat.
You guys have a lot of good questions. One thing I'm seeing consistently, if you have rental properties, if you have income producing properties, that has to make its own application. The only thing we're talking about here is your 475 commission income as a realtor. You cannot commingle property, your own, not property management as a business, but management of your own portfolio of real estate investment into your real estate sales application.
Mm-hmm. Using the bank. So not having a business bank account with a bank and having a personal, I think that's going to depend on the bank. I think a lot of the banks, and Joanne, you can probably speak a little bit more to that, but a lot of the banks want you to have a business relationship with them, at least at some, so, but not all. Maybe they're relaxing some of the rules. Who knows, maybe Joanne, you got some insight into that.
We do. We have a list of lenders that are posted on the website. You can also email me and we'll provide them if you can't find them, of folks who have indicated that they will be willing to work with folks that don't have a business bank account elsewhere. But again, that I have doled this poor guy's name out. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait, but there are people out there. It's not that you are not eligible. It's not that you will not get helped, but there will be, you know, there's certainly an influx. There's a big line to get in there. So going forward, it's important that you get those relationships established. You're not out though for this process, so don't be worried.
Another fantastic question. What if I earn more in 2018 than I did in 19? Can I average those 2 years? To my best understanding, you cannot. It's either 19 or moving forward. That's how I understand it. I have not seen anything allowing you to go back further than 19.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. No, this is really meant to replace the immediate income that's been disrupted. So if you had a killer 2018 and you had crickets in 2019, they're not going to say, well, this is what you normally do.
Okay.
And
Joanne,
this-
it's asking also if you can move down. Is that the full page, or the next slide?
No,
is
there's
gonna
more.
have-
There's more to
there's
this.
more.
If we
Perfect.
are done with this part, I will zoom to the next one so we can keep scooting. All right, now these are the questions that you need to be prepared to answer. These, again, this form is the SBA form. Your bank probably is going to offer a digital format of this. Like with my application, when I did it, it wasn't yes or no boxes. It was, I just had to put my initials to say, yes, I'm not suspended. Yes, I'm not convicted felon. Yes, I haven't, not paid the SBA in the last 7 years, those kind of things. So don't be too fussed about the physical format. Every bank is going to have their own. You can fill this out so that when you look at your bank, most of the banks have portals available online, so you can do this digitally. But these questions you are going to have to be able to answer. This shouldn't be the hard part. There were some questions though with respect to some of the criminal stuff, but it's all been deemed to be felony. If you have, speeding ticket, it's not a problem unless you've had so many that it's risen to the level of felony because of the repeat nature of it. So, so these questions here: is the applicant suspended, disbarred, ineligible to participate in this transaction, or involved in a bankruptcy? So this is getting to, are you a bad actor? For most people, this shouldn't be a problem. Have you owned a business or controlled any of them that's defaulted on an SBA loan or other federal loan in the last 7 years? This arguably would include federally backed student loans because it's talking about the owner as well. So just keep in mind those things. These are going to be important that you answer accurately as well, because you are going to sign a certification that says these things are accurate, and if you lie about your bankruptcy, they're going to see that. So this is not the program for you if that's the case. Is the applicant or owner of the applicant or owner of any other business have common ownership with any other business? The reason this is here again is because of
the possibility to apply for, by all owners applying for the same entity for the same use of funds. That's exactly what this is trying to prevent.
And the thing is here, what's interesting about this section is this is where you would have an opportunity to explain, if you had a paper version or a human being, hey, I have a team and these are my PLLCs and it's really just us, but FREC is crazy and this is what we have to do. But if you have the computer and you say yes and it doesn't like that, then you may need to, I don't want to say put anything in that's not true, but you may need to supplement that information later on, because like I said, my guy at Chase couldn't get through because when he answered yes to this question, it went and kicked him out. So,
Yep.
I mean, it didn't kick him out of the portal immediately, but when you went to submit, it said you're not eligible for this program.
Fantastic question here on the ownership. I'm a business owner with 100% of stock of one of them and 52% of the other. Can both businesses apply? Absolutely. So each business will have their own application. The applicant is the business. You are going to be the owner. So both applications will ask also to say what other business interests are there. So this is again to prevent you. So if you're applying for the business loan where you own 52% and then your partner who owns the other 48 also applies for that business for the same amount of payroll, they're going to match that up. So whichever one of you decides to do the application that you guys own half and half, that's who will need to apply for that. And you can certainly apply for the business that you own 100%. So yes, the applicant is the business.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Moving on down here, is the applicant owning 20% or more subject to an indictment, criminal information? This is if you're in trouble right now, where formal criminal charges are pending. So you haven't been deemed guilty or not guilty yet, but you're in the process, then you would have to say yes. Initial here to confirm your response. They really don't want you to be unsure or inaccurate here. In the last 5 years, have you had a felony or been placed on parole or probation? is the United States the principal address for all employees of the applicant? This is where, you know, some of our foreign clients are, even if the business is based in the US, if the owners are foreign, I think we're going to run into some trouble there. That shouldn't be a problem for realtors though. Is this applicant a franchise? This does not apply to you because you're part of RE/MAX or you're part of Sotheby's or you're part of a real estate franchise. This is saying you're applicant. So if you owned the RE/MAX branch, then you would say yes. If you are an agent at a RE/MAX office, you would say no. Make sense? Okay, let's keep moving here. Here are the certifications and authorizations. So here you're certifying that you've actually read this. I think they tried that with closings. It doesn't really help, but here we try again.
At least this is only 4 pages long in its entirety, so
exactly.
it really
I haven't written anything as a lawyer
difficult.
that's 4 pages, but the SBA did, so they're better lawyers than me, I guess. You're certifying that you're eligible to receive this loan. You are certifying that you are one of the categories, independent contractor, self-employed, and that you have no more than 500 people, that you will comply wherever applicable with civil rights and other limitations in this form, that you'll use the proceeds for the business-related purposes. Again, if you take this money and go on vacation, it's not just going to convert to a loan that you owe back with interest. There are penalties. There are criminal, civil, financial penalties for just disregarding the uses. This does not mean, oh, I thought I could pay the cell phone and I shouldn't have. That's not what they're getting at. This is blatant abuse of the program. So I don't want anybody to be like white knuckles on the edge of the table about their PLLC versus their individual name. That's not what this is getting at. One thing I think that's interesting here is that you obviously are willing, you're saying that you'll use the proceeds for the business related purposes. That again is the payroll, the mortgage interest, rent, utilities, etc. Those are the only things you can use that for. I would recommend that you have a separate bank account that you put these proceeds into, and then when you go to pay those expenses, I would switch your payroll, if you're running a real payroll, over to the new account so that you can clearly demonstrate, here's my PPP funds. Try not to commingle them. If you don't have another account and you can't get one open, or you're independent contractor and it's all the same, it's fine. Just make sure you've got documentation and proof, because like Marina said at the beginning of the call, we don't have confirmation or guidance yet from the banks or SBA on what they're going to want to see on the other side of this at the end of June, when we have to prove that we spent the money the way we were supposed to. To the extent feasible, I will purchase only American-made equipment and products. I don't know about that one. If you go to Walmart, you're definitely not buying.
To the extent feasible.
I don't know how you're going to buy a computer or anything for the business either. So, you know, so I especially because it's talking about products, when really utilities and mortgage interest, the stuff you're supposed to be using this money for is not product based. So I'm not really sure why that one's in there, except for, you know, it probably got stuck from the last version of something like this that they did. And you cannot be engaged in any illegal activities, either individually or with respect to the business. You are also, any loan received was for a purpose other than paying payroll and allowable uses. Oh, if you had an SBA loan prior to this program, that you could use it for those other allowable uses, and you're not violating anything by continuing to do so. Last page, this is the certification slide showing, you know, that you were, again, here you're going to be initialing that you were open by and operating by February 15th. That the current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations of the applicant. The thing I think that's interesting about this is, unless you are FedEx or Amazon or respirator producer, pretty much everybody falls into this, particularly within the realm of real estate. We don't know what's coming. So you don't have to show that you've had 3 closings cancel, or you've had buyers who are supposed to come from New York cancel. You don't have to demonstrate that. Simply being in real estate, there's a clearer connection here. But if you do have those things where you have emails from clients saying, you know what, we're not able to get on a plane. We're not buying this 3D virtual tour. I don't want to do that. I'm out until this is over. I would keep that stuff. It certainly can't hurt, but you're not looking at a big hurdle to prove your injury like you have to show with the EIDL program. You are confirming that you'll use the funds to retain workers and maintain payroll. Again, this is where it's going to be difficult for us to show or tell you what to provide to demonstrate that you've maintained your payroll when you're independent contractor. If you've got somebody on your payroll, an administrative assistant, that'll be easy to show. Your payroll processor will be able to print those reports for you. We'll just have to show that you hadn't cut them their pay by 25% or more during this period, and that's the next. That's what the next few boxes are, that you've verified the number of full-time employees, so you can't, get rid of people, and you can't cut their pay more than 25%, which is the next box. During the period of February 15th through the 31st of December, you've not received another payroll protection program application. So once you get in, this is it and you're done. I further certify that the application and the supporting documentation are correct. So you can make it is true and accurate in all material respects. If you have a typo, if you have made a small error, that is not material. Because it goes on to talk about imprisonment and fines, and that's for people that are cheating the system. That is not for good old, plain old honest mistakes. Finally, you have to initial that you acknowledge that the lender will confirm the eligible loan amount, and that may be different than what you put in there, and that's what you are, that's what you're going to get, is what ultimately is deemed by the lender appropriate. The lender is essentially underwriting this loan, even though it's not credit-based. So they're doing those investigations of the supporting documentation that you provide.
I read quite an article that it was written by a CPA, and he had a bunch of snide remarks in there. And so what he said is, we're CPAs. The way we're reading it, it doesn't matter how we're reading it and interpreting it. It doesn't matter how your smart cousin is interpreting it. And it doesn't matter how your barber is interpreting it. It's going to be a matter of how your bank is interpreting it. And if the bank says you're wrong, you're wrong. So I would imagine there's going to be more guidance issued by the banks. I think, again, this is the first hurdle, is to get the application in. The next hurdle is going to be looking at them. Some people have already gotten the funds. I can see if, they will bounce back. Like there was a question earlier. What if I checked all the boxes? Am I going to get denied? I don't think so. It may be a matter of bank making a decision of which box to keep, or they may bounce it back to you and say, who are you really? I don't think they're going to deny automatically your application. So some banks are probably going to ask for more information, and some banks are just going to maybe make some assumptions. A couple of questions too on the application forms. The application form we just looked at is the SBA form. It's going to be part of the application form that your bank will have. So your bank will also have their own form, because again, this PPP you're applying through the bank. The bank is going to have a little bit, it's going to be similar, but this is going to be a part of it. So you have to contact your bank to get their application. A lot of them are doing it online. A lot of them have set up the portal. So when you go through a bank portal, like Chase, for example, is our bank, when we go through it, Chase is asking some questions, and then we also had to upload this particular form that was filled out. I don't believe there was anything else. And then of course we had to upload other things like the payroll reports and all the other stuff. But each bank will have their own application plus this PPP application. So I just want to make sure that was clear, is that you need to go through the bank and get the bank application. Am I allowed to pay for health insurance? I pay out of the company? Yes, absolutely. So health insurance, like I mentioned, health insurance is considered employee benefits. So you've got the payroll, you've got health insurance, you've got other things too, if you're paying for disability insurance, any other benefits you pay for, as well as the pension contribution. The pension contribution is the employer portion that you match them, not the employee contribution that they pay out of their salary. So it's all of this sort of the benefits around it, not including payroll tax. Payroll tax is not part of the payroll cost for this purpose. It's strictly payroll and the health insurance, other benefits, and pension plan contributions. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Getting a lot of people continuing to ask, if I don't have a business checking relationship, what do I do? There is a local banker who I can send you contact information to, who will be willing to help. And you can also check the SBA website. It is the prerogative of the individual banks to say, if you don't have a business relationship, we're not going to work with you. But there is at least one lender locally who I can give you the name for, that is willing to work with folks who do not have an existing business relationship.
Still questions are coming through. Can I apply for both PPP and the EIDL loan? We've covered that in a couple of the webinars we've done this week. So we do encourage you guys to go to our website and pull some of those recordings. But the short answer is yes and no. You cannot apply for both PPP and EIDL for the same use of funds. So you cannot apply for payroll use under EIDL and also under PPP. If you have already applied for EIDL, because that was open earlier than this, they will roll the EIDL loan into the PPP loan for you. They will do that. If you've applied for PPP loan for other uses, let's say you've got a rental property or a different business that is better, equipped to get EIDL loan, those are two different applications. It's not one or the other. You can apply for EIDL for one of your businesses that's not payroll heavy. You can apply for PPP if it is really specifically for payroll. The other thing to tell you guys is the EIDL loan, again, we mentioned that several times, but again, in short summary, EIDL loan does have that $10,000 advance. And when we're looking at the formula for PPP, that's got average payroll times 2.5. If you're a realtor with commission, strict, simple speaking, if your commission is under about 50 grand, getting the 10,000 EIDL advance that's forgivable is going to be better for you than calculating 50,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. You're going to get more. So 50 is kind of that break-even cutoff where EIDL, you take the 10,000, it's forgivable. The application is directly through SBA, take the money and run. The PPP, because that is not going to ask you for what did you use the funds for. That $10,000 advance and you're done. If you've got the PPP, again, you're $50,000 realtor, you're going to get that same amount, but you're going to run into having to prove what the funds were used for or whatever the case may be at the end of 8 weeks. So we recommend an EIDL probably for that purpose, but again, that's only going to be those lower earners. Anybody who's over 50, you've got payroll costs, I encourage you guys to file for PPP first. When PPP money runs out, after 8 weeks, you get your loan forgiven, you're still not working, you're still missing income, then you can apply for EIDL. The application for EIDL loan through SBA website, the deadline for that is the end of the year. So you have till the end of the year to apply. So the key here, that's why the formula is 2.5 times. This loan is supposed to last you living off this payroll for about 2 months. If this is still going, then, or you've suffered enough, now you've got further economic loss because you're still not working, that's what the EIDL loan is going to be for. There's talks that this is going to get expanded. We don't know if it's just more money being thrown at it or the rules may change. We'll bring you guys the latest as we know it, but with the rules so far, with the applications going in as they are now, that's what you're doing. So you're trying to get 2 months of your pay covered. That's the big picture here. So I hope that makes sense real quick with PPP and EIDL, but please do listen. We did, on Wednesday, we did, on Thursday, we did more targeted webinar on really the differences, like pros and cons of these loans with a little bit more detail. So if you want to learn about PPP versus EIDL, please go back and listen to our recording from yesterday.
Yep. Let me also just circle back on a couple of things with respect to teams. If you have not formed an LLC and you are just Team Kuntz because you've decided to market that way, all the members of your team must file their own PPP application. You cannot file one as a small business. You've got to each do your own individual PPP application. So again, that may cause a disadvantage between spouses, unfortunately, but if without a formal LLC that files its own business tax return, you're going to have to file those separately. I would avoid using brokerage business addresses for these applications in case your bank sends you something. It's not lost in the shuffle, especially with reduced staffs. physical staff at places. The mail is a little bit crazy, so I would be using my home address. Some folks are chiming in on the chat with questions about how to fill out the boxes on the top. I think in order to be respectful of time, that we hit first, and you can go back. This is being recorded and will be distributed to you, so you can go back and grab that. You know,
a good question too about how, because now the banks have their own application, and I threw other things. Somebody is asking the bank, on the bank application, they're asking, are you a small business? That's not even a thing on this PPP application. So now you've got another category to contend with. Well, yes, you're a small business. I think if you're an S Corp and the bank is asking you, are you a small business? Are you an individual contractor or self-employed? You know, again, if you're an independent contractor, you're a realtor, I would put, you know, individual contractor, even though you're an S Corp, but, you know, because that's the bank. But this particular form, if you're an S Corp, I would certainly mark S Corp. This is where I think all that disparity between who you are, between this form and the banks, it's going to be really tough. And, you know, it's almost like pick the best that you think you are and apply. Applying is more important than, you know.
Let me clarify too, the EIDL loan, there is the first $10,000 of emergency grant that's forgivable if you take an EIDL loan. But if you take EIDL and PPP, that $10,000 offsets $10,000 of your PPP debt forgiveness. So there's not all your PPP plus 10,000. You can't double dip that debt forgiveness.
Real quick, Tanya and Ronnie, your calculation is correct. It is your gross commission, divide by 12 times 2.5. And then the resulting number then goes in. So the first box is going to have gross commission. Then it gets you to do the 2.5 times, or the average, and then the gross commission average, then times 2.5, and then the resulting number goes into that second box.
Yeah. Couple of other things I want to mention. If you, hang on. I just dismissed a couple because they were the same thing, and now I'm fine. Sorry. Oh, the recordings. If you are looking for the recordings, you do not need to ask for them. They will be emailed to you automatically. We do have, those have to go through a little editing process, so they get cut and then they get posted. So we're getting those out as soon as we can. They will be emailed to you directly. They'll be available on both the Kuntz & Associates and Kuntz & Parkin Facebook pages. They'll be on our YouTube channel, and they'll be on our websites as well. So you will absolutely be able to find those. They will be not only categorized by topic of the webinar, but for example, last Tuesday, we did a broad overview. So for those of you who are having questions about unemployment and EIDL loans, if you want more in depth from that, go back to last Tuesday's. Not only are the categories of each webinar there, but there's also time breaks. So if you only want to hear about something, if you only want to hear about unemployment, you can click right on the link and it'll take you to that section, so you don't have to listen to the entire webinar if you do not wish to. I mean, I thought the webinar was fantastic, but if you don't want to hear it again, you may not want to sit through the whole thing. If you have any other line of business, rental properties, consulting, any other type of income, those other businesses need to file their own applications. You cannot start lumping together other things with your 1099 income to simplify your application process. Those are all different business ventures. So,
unemployment is the other question that has come up a couple of times here. I would not apply for unemployment if you get this PPP loan. Again, the PPP is supposed to replace or give you at least some replacement of income for 8 weeks. Once that runs out, if you're still not able to continue to working at that point, I would file for unemployment, because that's how you're going to get this loan forgiven, is to show that you've actually used that money to live on. If you've got other income coming in elsewhere, I'm not sure that it's going to hurt you, but I would wait on the unemployment application until after the loan, this PPP loan is forgiven after 8 weeks.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and attention. We will we'll be back in touch with you. We will continue, like I said, to provide these updates. Continue to check in. If you want to email us questions that you're interested in for other webinar topics, we will continue to keep you posted. All of that will be emailed to you, also on Facebook. So if you have interest in something, let us know.
Wonderful.
Enjoy, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.